All right, week one college football breakdown Thursday night. This is a great matchup to start what's going to be a great college football weekend. We got an old school rivalry here. Pitt hosting West Virginia, the old backyard brawl. This used to be a really relevant rivalry back. I remember the Pat White game. I think it was 2007. I mean, this is an underrated rivalry in college football, and these fan bases hate each other back when they played in the Big East. This year, though, seeing Pitt at home laying 7.5 right now, that's up from 7. Sitting at 7 for a long time. Total is down to 51. West Virginia is a team that I'm really high on. They've really had mediocre quarterbacks since Neil Brown has been there. I mean, whether it's Austin Kendall, Jarrett Dagey, I don't care what the stats say because that's a pretty quarterback-friendly offense. Neither one of those guys are game-changing players. I think bringing JT Daniels in was a great move. Obviously, a former 5-star guy, didn't work out at USC, and got hurt last year at Georgia. But I'm of the belief that Georgia was winning that with JT Daniels, with Stetson Bennett. I mean, JT Daniels came along back in 2020 and was one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the country towards the end of that season. I think this is a good situation for him. Working with Graham Harrell again, who's the new offensive coordinator at West Virginia, coming over from USC. The issue with this offense as a whole, though, because I think Daniels is going to have overall a good year. Mountaineers have got some good young running backs, too, that should emerge throughout the season. But this is a really tough matchup week one. I mean, Pitt defensively, second in sacks a year ago. I know West Virginia returns all 5 starters along the offensive line, but, man, this is a really tough matchup facing one of the best pass rushing teams in the country. Pitt's defense was leaky a year ago, and I get that. I would feel a lot more comfortable with West Virginia here if Daniels wasn't starting his first game there, if Graham Harrell wasn't coaching his first game there. I think this is a team that's going to get a lot better throughout the year, but it's tough to trust them in this spot. With that being said, I think Pitt is a team that's going to be viewed way off coming into the year. I think last year was a one-off year for them in terms of style. You have to remember, Pat Narduzzi before last year was probably the epitome of like a ugly style of football coach. Pitt would play a ton of low-scoring games. He'd kick these 19 and 20-yard field goals. He was a very conservative coach. Then you get the development of Kenny Pickett, who obviously had the year he had. I think this Pitt team is going to revert back to what they were before Kenny Pickett. Bringing in Keaton Slovis from USC, a battle of transfer USC quarterbacks here. I'm particularly not that high on Slovis. I think he's a good enough player, but he is not an all-American, maybe not even an all-conference caliber quarterback, in my opinion. This is going to be a totally different system from the air raid he ran under Graham Harrell at USC. So I think you have to account for that too. Pitt actually ran the ball well last year, somewhat, but I really think that was elevated by Kenny Pickett. Turns out if you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country, it's going to open up some of the other areas of your game, and I think the running game certainly benefited from that. I don't think they have that this year. I think West Virginia under Neil Brown has been really underrated defensively. They were top 30 in my efficiency metrics a year ago on that side of the ball. My one concern for them is secondary. If they were facing a level of quarterback like Kenny Pickett from last year, probably be more worried, but I'm just not that high on Keaton Slovis. And you also lose Jordan Addison. I don't think wide receiver is going to be as good as it was a year ago. I think this line is probably right. I kind of had to lean towards the first half under. I just don't really think either offense is going to come out as efficient as people might think. The way I think I'm going to play this game, though, that first half under is just a lean right now. I think the way I'm going to play this game, though, is, and I wouldn't advocate doing this too much, but I do think this is a pretty low variance game. Neil Brown has played a lot of close games since he's been at West Virginia, a lot of one possession losses. I think I'm going to tease this up to plus 13.5. There's some other teaser options on the board that I'll kind of get to throughout the week, but I have a hard time seeing West Virginia get run off the field. I think getting that 6 points of leeway is going to make a big difference in this game. Like I said, total's at 51, so this is not projected to be some shootout, high scoring game. And I agree with that. I think this is a pretty low variance game, but when push comes to shove, I don't think Pitt has the offensive firepower to close this game out and win by 2 or 3 touchdowns. So my best look in this game right now is teasing West Virginia up to the 13.5. And then I also have a slight lean towards that first half under as well. I'm going to have tons of more breakdowns throughout the week. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. I'd appreciate that. And comment your prediction for this game down below. On the channel, we'll have a playlist section, say week 0 previews and predictions. Click on that. I'll have all the other breakdowns there. Once again, I'm going to tease West Virginia up to 13.5, and I also have a slight lean towards the first half under as well.